I've got a really interesting story about a very historic gold mine that supposedly started the California gold rush. If you've got a minute to listen to a really crazy, wild story, I'll tell you the story of the cargo mines and how I got them on eBay, a historic national spot, by total mistake. I was trying to buy property on eBay. I bought a lot of property on eBay. I bought a waterfront lot in Florida that actually had a boat dock on the St. Johns River, and it had a lake. It had an 18-hole golf course. I got it for $360. I bought a lot of different pieces of property on eBay, and I only really lost out on one of them. It was a real bum deal. Don't ever buy land in Mississippi or Arkansas. These are the two worst states in the world. Do not buy land on eBay that's in these two states. Also, there's one, I believe Michigan too. You don't want to buy land in Flint, Michigan at all. It's garbage. And then also you want to be careful about the Mojave Desert land in California. That I bought a piece and I lost out on that. I actually forgot to even transfer the deed. I was so I was so irritated. The property was so bad. But I'm going to tell you about the cargo mines. It was listed as, I think it was 36 acres of desert land in the mountains, and they didn't know anything about it. They knew nothing about the property, and I was really excited about buying it. It was right outside of Yuma, Arizona, and it was just, it was just desert from what I knew. And so I started talking to people on Craigslist, and somebody sold me a camper for $600, and so I went ahead and I bought that, a tow behind camper. I was going to go put it on the property, and then I'm in Florida the whole time. And then somebody else told me, they said, I put an ad on Craigslist, and I said, would somebody be willing to go out and drive around my property and take a look at it and send me some photos? So some people told me, yeah, sure, we'll do that. We got a Jeep, we love going off road, and so they went out to the property, to the directions that I gave them that I got off of eBay, and they sent me pictures back of all kinds of gold mining equipment. I mean, brand new tractors, brand new dredges, like, millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment, and a fence around the property. And they said, somebody is poaching your property right now. Somebody is using your property. And they said this happens quite often. And they said, now that you've caught them, you need to go there with the sheriff and basically seize all the equipment. So I'm thinking, wow, I might get something out of this, and this is my first knowledge of a gold mine being there on the property. So I flew to Yuma, Arizona, and I thought, well, I'm just going to camp the whole time, it's no big deal. And I got off the airplane, and it was like 140 degrees. It was so hot. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I didn't even know it got so hot back then. And I immediately realized I'd be staying in hotels. So I rented a, what was it? It was a convertible Ford Mustang, and brand spanking new. It had like 30 miles on it, and rented this Mustang. And I was like, gonna have a fun time and find my property. So I went out the road. The people told me where to go, and sure enough, I came upon this spot, and it was a big gated entrance, and it had all these, tons and tons of heavy equipment back there, tractors, etc. So I had bought a bunch of spray paint. I had bought a bunch of no trespassing signs. I had bought just all kinds of stuff, all kinds of paraphernalia that I was going to kick them out of the property with. So I went around and I staked it all off with no trespassing signs. I put caution tape around everything. I spray painted on everything, like stay out, keep out, this is private property, etc. And then it got to be evening, and I was just hanging out around there, and I was trying to find a place to actually put my camper. Once I got the camper, I was going to have somebody tow it up there, and I wanted to stake out an area for them to be able to put it. So I'm looking around in these different areas, and I started a little fire, and I think I bought a six-pack, and I was up there drinking a six-pack, and the foolish things you do when you're drinking. I was trying to get a GPS location of the actual spot where I wanted to put the trailer, and it I learned how to use my GPS function while I was doing that. And so I said, oh, wait a minute, not only is there directions in this eBay description, but there is also a GPS coordinate. So I was like, sweet, let me punch that in. So I punched it in, and boom, it shot me to a totally different spot, like maybe 2 or 3 miles away. And I made it back there with the Mustang, going through these crazy, 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 ravines and everything, just absolutely wild. And made it back there to the spot. And this photo matched up exactly with what I'd seen on Google Maps. I had seen these two like large swimming pools on top of a cliff, and this matched identically, and I knew this was the property. So I had made a mistake. It wasn't the original property that I had put all the trespassing signs around. So so I ended up crashing out, slept, and I woke up, and I was getting phone calls from the people that owned the other gold mine. And they were like, hey, we got all our trucks are sitting at the gate. We don't know what's going on. There's no trespassing signs on our property. Like, what's going on? And I said, look, man, I'm sorry. I just made the world's biggest mistake. I said, I went off of, I bought this piece of property. I went off the directions they gave me. I said, somebody told me that there was a gold mine set up on my property, and I panicked, and I flew all the way out here from Florida. And I'm so sorry. I said, I'll clean the paint off your fence. I'm so sorry. And the guy had a really good sense of humor. The guy was super cool with me, and he even offered to sell me water, or redirect water to me, because he was like the only guy out there with water. So really super nice guy, one of the nicest guys I ever met. I mean, for a huge blunder like that was really crazy. So so I went to the El Centro County Courthouse, and I was researching the deed, and I was doing it all myself, in the courthouse, and I was supposed to be the 100% owner. Well, come to find out, there's 3 owners, and I only owned 89% of it. And it was a really awesome property. It had mountains all the way around it that were actually on the property, really, really tall mountains, like scary mountains to even climb. And I got up one, and I didn't even think I was going to get down alive. I made a goodbye video because I did not think I was going to be able to make it back down the mountain. So I made a goodbye video from the top of the mountain. And it was really a crazy geographical location too, because when you walk just a few feet, the time zone changes, and you're at 1 minute you're connected to Mexican towers, the next minute you're connected to Arizona towers, and the next minute you're connected to California towers, because it was right there in the central, and they were talking about it having portals and all kinds of crazy stuff. People had like weird beliefs about this piece of property, and come to find out, I'm doing my research on it and everything. I got the original title signed over by a U.S. president. I think it was Franklin D. Roosevelt or something like that, signed it over. And it was the Cargo Muchacho Mountains, and it's right outside of Yuma, right outside of El Centro. It's that black chain of mountains you'll drive past, and it's the coolest piece of land in the world. It's surrounded by tens of thousands of acres of Bureau of Land Management, BLM land. And so, this mine is very, very famous. So people from all around the world are constantly coming up to see this gold mine. The problem is the liability attached to it was just unbelievable. There was probably 20 acres of nothing but arsenic. I mean, just huge piles of arsenic. And then there was a mine shaft that dropped down 850 feet down, straight down. And then it had tunnels that branched out and went for miles. And I was doing my research on the internet, and I found these guys called the Underground Explorers. And I found out that they had actually been down in my mine, and they had like mapped it out, and they had done a lot of photos and video tours, and they had done all kinds of stuff down there. And so I contacted them. I said, hey, man, that's private property. You can't be going back there again. I can't afford the liability. I said, please, stay out of that mine. because that is private property. I do hold the title to that property. And they were like, oh, wow, we didn't know that. We didn't think, we thought it was owned by the government. I said, no, I've got the title. I'll send you a copy of the title if you want to see it. But we ended up becoming friends, and we were talking more. And I said, hey, I had a factory in San Diego. I owned a kratom factory. So I said, hey, let's do something fun with the guys when I fly down from Florida, because I was living in Florida and flying back and forth to the factory. I said, let's take all the guys and let's take them all down below the ground, and we'll go do a tour of the mine. So I called up the Underground Explorers, really cool guys, and I was like, hey, how much would you guys charge us just to make sure we get down this mine safely? Like, teach us how to use the rope harnesses. I've never done it before at that time, and just get us down there safe and let us have like a little tour. So they said, I think they said $1,800. We'll take the group of you. So it was like 5 of us, and so we went out with them, and we went down to the first level, and it was probably, I'd say 150, 200 feet deep. And at the first level, it was super creepy. The first 15 feet, maybe 20 feet, there was actually a ladder, and the ladder was like really, really rickety. It's just barely hanging on. But as soon as you get down to like 30, 40 feet, there's no water has ever been down there. So it's, the wood is in perfect condition from 1778. 1778, the wood is in perfect condition. I'm going to tell you the history behind this mine. The Cargo Muchacho Mountains was just a place in the desert, and some Mexican guys had lost their donkeys, and they were walking around looking for their donkeys in these mountains, and one of them stumbled and fell over a rock, and he looked down at the rock, and it was pure gold. So that's what started the California Gold Rush, to my understanding, was right there. And people just went nuts. There was a whole ghost town right there in this valley. It was my property, and 36 acres. I saw pictures of an old schoolhouse, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I found remnants of like old stoves, all kinds of crazy stuff. It was so cool. And the little tiny houses, little shelters they used to live in. But the Underground Explorers took us down. We got down to about 150 feet, and we saw something really, really creepy. On these big posts that supported the main section, there was the names of demons written in Latin. on each post there was a demon name written in Latin. And then there was like a little fire where they had done some sort of like incantation or something, some sacrifice, I don't know what. But there was definitely demonic activity hardcore down there. And then the farther you go down, you'd see little its and bits and pieces of like a child's clothes. And it wasn't just one child. It was like a boy, like his pants. It'd be like a little girl's shirt. And it was just remnants just left all through this mine. Like, what is an 8-year-old boy's pants doing 250, 300 feet down in this mine? Like, that didn't make sense. And then you see all the demonic stuff, and I bet kids got sacrificed down there. I'm not joking. And but it was really cool. There was so I'm digging more into the research of this mine, and I find out about this group called the National Bat Association. And this group has been going to that mine since the 1970s, like 1974. And they go there on like a monthly basis, and they make videos of how many bats are coming out. They do a bat count, because this mine is geothermally heated. It's like hot down there at the bottom, because it's so close to the center of the earth, so close to the core. There's actually a pyramid close by, just a few miles away, that marks the center of the earth. So they say all kinds of portals and stuff. Like, people have all kinds of rumors about that kind of stuff. So anyways, going down, I found like old wooden gunpowder cases, like dynamite cases, like really cool. These things would sell for tons of money in like an antique store. I found all kinds of stuff like that. It was so exciting. And I saw pictures of what the Underground Explorers had found at the very lowest levels, like little tiny workshops with like old cans of oil and stuff like that. Like, man, I would do anything to get my hands on that stuff. But it was 850 feet down. And the bats, they live there year round. That's the only mine they actually live year round in because of the geothermal heating. And it's a really, really rare bat. It's almost extinct. So I found out that the National Bat Association had a really big thing about this mine, and I was trying to figure out how can I use it. Can I turn it into a tourist attraction? Can I salvage the old antique lumber out of it and sell it for $10 a foot? What can I do with this mine to make money with this mine? Can I reprocess gold through it? Can I go through the tailings? I'm like, what can I do to make money with this mine? And I tried to put a cabin on it. I talked to code enforcement, and I'm telling you one thing, the code enforcement from El Centro, California, they are the biggest pieces of garbage I've ever talked to in my life. The guy, I asked him, I said, can I just put like a little tiny shed there where I can just camp out? And he was such a jerk. He's like, no. And I said, well, what if a shed just happens to show up, And he's like, I'm going to be driving out there and checking to make sure you don't put a shed out there. And if you put a shed out there, I'll charge you $500 a day for every day it's out there. So the guy was a real piece of work. I talked to the BLM. The BLM maintained roads back through their property all the way to the mine. And a lot of people go vacationing in this BLM land. They come from all over the world in the wintertime, and they park their RVs there, and they go around four-wheeling and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that know about the Cargo mines. It's really, really famous. People from Canada and everything were coming up there. And I decided I was going to take a camping trip there. I was going to stay there for like 2 weeks with my motorhome. So I took my motorhome back there. I mean, these desert washes go down so deep and they come up so high. And I barely got the motorhome back there. Just scraping up everything, ripping off bumpers. I didn't even tell you what happened to the car. I took that car back, and I thought I was going to have to completely buy that car because I ripped off all the undercarriage, everything. I was underneath that car, and I didn't take out insurance, which was the stupidest thing in the world. So I thought for sure they were going to charge me for this car. And I was running late to the airport. I overslept that night because I was really tired. And I just ran in the airport. I threw the keys at them. I just missed my flight. And they never charged me. Oh my goodness, I got so spared. I should have paid thousands and thousands of dollars in damages for that car. And that was the one time I got off the loop on that car. Because that car, a Mustang is not meant to drive through the desert and go through those desert washes. But I did it. So anyway, I'm talking to the National Bat Association now, and at this time I'm finding out that there's a lot of liability with the mine, with people falling in it. They have those stupid things where people will plant treasures and codes and stuff on the internet, and you got to go on a treasure hunt. Somebody had put one of those things inside the mine. It was tempting people to go inside the mine. So I contacted that website on the internet. I said, look, if somebody goes on that property, I'm going to shoot them. I said, that's private property. Take this off right now. And so they permanently banned me from their website, but they did actually take that treasure thing off the property, thank God, because they were just drawing people to this mine, and that's the last place people should be going, is an 850-foot deep pit that goes straight down. I mean, if they fall on it, they're dead. And on top of that, there's just fields of arsenic. And I actually got threatened by one group. They threatened if I did anything out there at all to change it, because everybody was really upset that it got sold. Nobody knew it was being sold. Nobody did the history on that tax sale. Nobody knew. And it was just a complete mistake that this piece of property ever got sold. So everybody's just shocked that it's private property. And when I was camping out there for 2 or 3 weeks, I was chasing people off the property with a machete every single night. There'd be all these dirt bikes and stuff and convoys coming up to go see the mine. And I'd run out with a machete like a crazy man and chase them off and say, this is private property, get off my property. And it was just exhausting. It was exhausting chasing so many people, hordes of people off the property constantly. And these one dirt bikers, I chased them. I went towards them with an axe and a machete. And I'm like, it's way out in the middle of nowhere. I look like a crazy man with an axe and a machete. And so that did not deter them, though. They just went around the mountain and came up the backside. So I was like, shoot, I got to go chase these people off before they go get in the mine. So I went up to the top and I'm like, guys, what are you freaking doing? I said, this is private property. And they're like, no, it's not. It's BLM land. I said, no, this is not BLM land. This is a piece of private property in the middle of BLM land, and I am the new owner. And so they told me, they said, what do you mean? We've been coming here since the 1970s, and this is like our spot. And I said, I don't care, man. I don't want somebody getting hurt on my land, until I get covers for this mine. And the covers were like $45,000 to $65,000. That was how much the door covers cost for these mines. And it has to have a special ventilation system for the bats to be able to go get in and out. But it has to, be safe enough and strong enough to keep people out, dumb people that go in mines. So that was a major expenditure of me looking forward to spending $45,000 to $65,000 on these covers. And the National Bat Association, I was talking to them, and they were talking about giving me a grant and paying for the covers. But during the process of all this and all the liability and all the things I'm thinking about, then my sister was murdered in Florida. She was chopped up with a chainsaw. And my kratom company, Mayan Kratom, was stolen by my co-packer. He just absolutely stole it. Sebastian Guthrie. He's just an absolute scumbag. He's in federal prison right now. He stole my company and just as a co-packer just told me, he said, I'm not paying you anymore. I'm just going to continue manufacturing your product. I'm not going to send you a dime. And he's like, if you don't like it, sue me. It'll take you 5 years to get through the court system. So I ended up, all this stuff hit me at once. And I was actually living in Mexico. And so I went from making, crazy, insane amounts of money to making nothing overnight. And I've got a huge house payment, on an 85-acre ranch. And I've got other stuff. I mean, I did not conserve my money like I should have. I didn't save my money. So I was in a really tight spot financially. And I told you that I was only 88% owner of that property. I didn't even know that was possible. I found out when I went to the courthouse and I went through all the documents and I went through all the paperwork, I found out there were 2 other owners. And so I was trying to acquire full ownership of the property. I was trying to contact them and actually acquire full ownership. And one piece was coming up for tax sale. And I was in Colombia at the time, and this real estate agent from California called me, and he's like talking to me about this piece of land, and he didn't realize that I was the owner of the big piece, the 89% of 36 acres. And then when we got done talking on the phone, I thought the guy was a straight up guy on the phone, but it ended up he was a serpent, and he got destroyed just like serpents get destroyed. Because as soon as he found out it was tied to something, he immediately went to that tax sale and got it. And I didn't have a chance at it. And it was only a small piece. It was like 12%. But he bid like crazy, insane amounts of money to get it. And he got destroyed. I'll tell you about that in a second. So I reached out. I tried to sell the property. And I put it on eBay for... I built a Facebook site for it. I put it on eBay probably 10, 15, 20 times. It sold. And every time, even though the people placed a winning bid and they won the property, they wouldn't pay for it. And I was trying to sell it for like $25,000 to $50,000. I thought, that's cheap. 36 acres in California. And it's like one of the most historic mines in the entire world for only, and these idiots, they couldn't wrap their head around the fact that I only owned 86% of the property, and I wasn't, there was 2 other owners that were out there somewhere that I couldn't contact. So they couldn't wrap their mind around that. And I'll tell you honestly, that was the most foolish decision these people ever made, was to be a deadbeat bidder, because they would have really, really got a valuable piece of property. So I was getting frustrated with it not selling and I needed the cash really, really badly. I had just went through a murder for hire. this company that I used to work with, they had just paid 7 pounds of cocaine to have me killed. That was the company named Lucky Kratom, and David Darien was the owner, along with this other guy. And David Darien was never officially charged, but the other guy paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, and he got off. And then he ended up paying me $35,000 a settlement, $35,000 around the same exact time. So I called the bat people and I said, look, you guys want this land? And they're like, yeah, we want the land, we want the land. And so they were on and off with me for like several months, talking about wanting the land, but like never doing anything serious. And I said, look, guys, and the one thing that was valuable in that property was it had miles and miles of bat guano, which is worth so much money to the marijuana industry. It's like one of the most powerful nitrogen-rich fertilizers, and they'll pay a lot of money for it. And it had like thousands of kilos of bat guano in this mine. And so I told the bat people, I'm like, look, I'm going to do one of three things. I'm going to salvage the lumber, I'm going to pull it out with a winch, or I'm going to go down to the bottom levels and get bat guano, and I'm going to start selling the bat guano because I want to do something with this mine. And they're like, if you touch that mine, we're going to, go to the federal government about the arsenic on the property, and you're going to be forced to clean it up, and it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars, and you're going to default. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I said, you can have it for $10,000 right now, and if you don't want it for $10,000 right now, I said somebody is going to throw a flare in that mine at night. Nobody will know who did it, and it's going to burn for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. That's what happens when a flare gets dropped in a mine, by the way. That wood is so dry, and the mines will just burn for weeks. And I said every single bat will be dead. And they're like, oh, we want it. So I was like, okay, I needed the money at the time, and I'm like, okay, $10,000, it's yours. And so they started making me little payments, and these were really nice people. They were really, really nice people. I really like these people. I really respect these people. But they were very, very shrewd businessmen. The one of them, he actually owned a hardware store, and you know how many millions of dollars it takes to start a hardware store and just inventory? Like, he knew his stuff. And they're conservationists. They're trying to protect the last of a species, and I respect that. They go out there once a month to catalog them and video them and all that stuff and count them. So since the 1974. So I respect that. I like saving species. I like feeling like I'm a part of a good cause. So I gave them the ultimatum, like, if you guys are going to report me, I'm going to set it on fire. Like, screw everybody. The bats will be dead, and then I can do it, whatever. Because if the bats are dead, I can go back to mining. I can do anything. There was 22,000 ounces of gold pulled out of this mine from 1778 to, the 1980s when it was closed. 22,000 ounces of gold, and it had really, really beautiful gold in this mine. You could see it. You could see it in the walls. There was so much left. So if the bats died, I would be able to mine the gold, or I'd be able to pull, I wanted something out of the mine. I just wanted something out of the mine. So I made the deal with them, and then they just snuck the payment deal in, like, in the end, and I was like, oh shoot, I wanted 10,000 cash, and I was kind of bummed out about that. And then I had a really bad addiction problem. I was addicted to alcohol, and severely, and I mean, it was destroying my entire life. So I was suicidal. And I really just wanted to end it because now I've lost my business. I've lost everything. I'm about to be homeless in Mexico. I went from a multi-millionaire lifestyle to nothing overnight. And I thought the different ways I could actually end it. And I thought the coolest way, because the Mexicans would really like me and I'm living in Mexico, would be to go have a shootout at the fence. I thought that was like in my head, is like, that's a cool way to go out. Take a bunch of AR-15s, go to the fence, and just have a shootout until it's over. And I thought that would be, and then I started thinking, I said, that's not a good That's not a good way to go out. These are fathers, these are husbands, these are people, like these are human beings, and I don't want to go out with that on my conscience. And I didn't know anything about God at that time at all. But I decided that I heard somebody told me that the federal prison system had rehabilitation systems for drugs and alcohol that were really, really top notch. They spend millions and millions of dollars on. And I had been trying to check into a rehab, but I couldn't even afford one at this point. And they wanted to keep me for like 9 months to a year. It was a total scam, total scam. So I was like, you know what? If I can break a federal crime, go into the bank, with just a piece of paper saying, give me your money, do any kind of a federal crime, I can go to the federal rehab and they'll pay for it. So I was like, wow, that's the most awesome thing. I can start over doing that. So the day after my sister's funeral, when she got chopped up with a chainsaw, the day after when I actually flew back to Mexico, I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk to the cartel. I'm going to go to work for the cartel. That's a federal crime. And that's how I'm going down. That's how I'm going to get my alcohol rehabilitation. That's how I'm going to start my life over. And my wife was in the process of leaving me, so I was like, it's just going to be a clean slate. It's going to be I've got a whole new fresh start on life if I can do this. So I started working for the cartel, and now I'm making like big bucks, big bucks. And I decided, well, you know what? I could like literally turn that bat mine into a theme park. There's so much I could do with that now that I've got money. I can do something. And so I called the bat people up. I think I left them a message and I said, hey, I'm canceling the sale of the bat mine and the cargo mines, and I'm going to refund you all your money tomorrow. And that was nothing, it was like a few $1,000s. And I was making crazy money, now doing what I was doing now. And so they called me up and they were pissed. They said, we will take you to federal court immediately if you even think about reneging on this deal that we have. And I said, well, I've changed my mind. They said, you can't change your mind. You've signed a contract. And so I was thinking about it. I'm thinking, you know what? These people could make my life a living hell. And I'm already like working for the cartel. I don't want to be going to court. I don't want anything to do with the courts while I'm working for the cartel. So I said, okay, guys, it's yours. I said, but can you pay me off right now? And they said, yeah, sure, we'll pay you off right now. And so we went up to El Centro, and boom, they gave me the money. We signed over the deeds, everything. They were happy. They were cool. They told me I could go back there for the rest of my life. And I told them about that real estate agent that had bought the 12% of the property. And he was trying to basically, screw me and make me pay like $50,000 for this little piece of land. And these guys are shrewd. These are some of the smartest businessmen I've ever met. And they're like, we are going to destroy this man. We're going to put in those the doors, and we're going to send him an $80,000 invoice. And if he doesn't pay it, we'll attach it to his house. We'll attach a lien to his house. We'll attach liens to everything he owns. We are going to destroy him. They said, we'll put up a fence, and we'll send him $1 million bill. They said, we are going to destroy this man for what he's doing. And I was like, wow, good. That's awesome. I was so happy to hear that, because that real estate agent was just a piece of crap. If I ever find out what his name is again, I'm going to make a specific website about his name, and I'm just going to trash him, because he was one of the slimiest people I've ever met in my life. He wasn't just an opportunist. He was a dirtbag. So I'm glad that I actually went through with what I promised them, and I did the sale. The land is preserved for the bats. It's owned by a trust now, and they are able to get to secure funding to put the doors on it, all that kind of stuff. Would I advise you to go out there? Not without permission. Get permission. Look it up. Look up the owners. Get permission, because that is private property, and you can actually get a trespassing charge and go to prison for being on federal property. On private property. And these guys are very shrewd. They're not playing around. They do not want the liability of somebody getting hurt on their property. So if you're one of those vacationers that says, hey, I want to see the cargo mines, you better ask permission first, because that is private property. And I'm sure they've got signs posted everywhere now that is private property, a lot more so than I had. So I got my dream came true. I got caught, and I was the happiest man in the world. I was absolutely thrilled. But I had told the cartel I only wanted to work with cocaine. That was it. I knew I was taking it to Hollywood actors and stuff, and large amounts. And I said I wanted to only work with cocaine, and that wasn't what was in my car. I was furious, and I was looking at life in prison, behind bars forever, never going home. And I got in a fight. I got beat up by some Hells Angels. There was like 20 of them, and just punched me in the face just because I told a black guard that I was gonna write him up. These white guys just attacked me, and so I realized, like, this is scary. Like, this California prison system is really, really dangerous to the gangs, and this is some scary stuff. And now they're telling me that I'm looking at life for what they found in my car. I was like shocked. I was just like, wow, I didn't plan on that. I planned on a year and a day, just enough time to go through recovery. Like, I thought I had this planned out. I thought I had my alibi. I thought I had everything in line. And come to find out, I had nothing in line. So, so I'm really scared. And I remember being in the shower one night, and I said, God, I didn't believe in God, but I said, God, get me out of here. God, please get me out of here. And I heard this audible voice. It said, you only deserve death. It was audible. It was God. It was God himself giving me an audible message that I only deserve death. And it scared me so bad. I've never been so frightened before in my life. I mean, I was just frightened because I knew that there was a God now, and I knew that I just heard the voice of God, and that God was watching me, and God was involved in my situation. And I was just absolutely shocked, just stunned. Started praying for about 2 weeks. And after about 2 weeks, when I just been seeking God, just seeking and seeking and seeking and seeking and seek him and you'll find him. That's exactly what the Bible says, and that's what happened. And about 2 weeks later, God actually told me, I forgive you. Not audibly this time, but he told it to my spirit, and I felt it so strong. I had goosebumps running up and down me right now just from even talking about it. Told me I was forgiven. Changed my life, changed my heart completely. And I was a flight bond. I was a no bond flight risk. I was planning on running, totally planning on it. I was going to run as fast as I could run, go straight to Sinaloa and go to work in Sinaloa for the Sinaloa cartel, doing other things for them, more computer related with my IT degree and stuff. They are a really, really professional cartel. Like, they're super professional. They own everything in Mexico. They own more airplanes than the Mexican government owns. They probably own more airplanes than the USA Air Force owns. I'm not kidding you. They are so rich right now with what Biden and Harris have done to enrich the cartel. We can go into that later. But anyway, so one night after I had started praying, my lawyer came in the evening, which is pretty rare. And she said, I've got good news. She said, you're going home tonight. I said, what? She said, yeah, the prosecutors just made a mistake and they accidentally signed your release. So this never happens, but you're going home tonight. And I was like, no freaking way. And she said, yeah. She said, I knew you didn't qualify. I knew they had said you were a flight risk. I knew that you didn't have the bond and all this stuff. But she said, I just went ahead and just pushed the paperwork just to see if they'd mess up, and they messed up. I said, wow, that's crazy. Where am I going to go? And God spoke into my spirit, and he told me, if I'm big enough to get you out of the feds, don't you think I'm big enough to get you a place? And I had promised God before. I said, God, if you get me out, I promise you I'll find a church. I promise you I'll feed the homeless. I promise I'll do this stuff on a daily and a weekly basis. I'll seek you with my whole heart. I won't forget about you. And so here God's got me out. Guess what? The next day, I had a house for $400 a month in San Diego. And it was from an atheist. She hated God, but she demanded to take me to a church. And it was the Hamul Community Church in Hamul, California. She demanded to take me up to meet this pastor for some reason. I don't even remember why. And she's an atheist, and she wanted me to meet this pastor. So I went up there and I talked to him for like 2 hours, and I realized, wow, this is 100% God. 100% God. God just showed me what church I'm supposed to go to. The pastor was so kind to me, one of the kindest people I've ever met in my entire life. And I would end up spending the next 6 to 8 months every single day being in that church, like just pouring my heart out, just seeking counseling from them, and just getting prepped for the trip that I was about to go on. And these people were the kindest people in the world. I ended up starting a ministry called the Jesus Cartel, and it was an anti-smuggling um, ministry. I was actually teaching people how to quit the cartel, and the church got behind me. The church sponsored me. I didn't even know it, but the pastor's son was one of the very, very top Border Patrol officials for the area of San Diego, and I didn't even know this. So this is all providence. This is the hand of God. Um, I got a chance, finally, right towards the end, I got a job at this little resort, because I just wanted to show that I had a job. And I was just doing maintenance, things like that, night shift, security, things like that. And it was the Jacumba Hot Springs Resort in Jacumba, down the road from, it's on an I-8, it's down the road from Golden Acorn Casino. And I'm doing maintenance there. I'm night shift. I was working my head off. I was the best worker they ever had. And one night, I was working late, and they said, hey, we got a famous person coming. And I said, who's that? They said, it's the mayor of Los Angeles. I said, what? They said, yeah, he's running for governor, and he's came down here to do a photo shoot. And as soon as I heard those words, I heard God tell me, apologize to him. I said, what? Apologize to him? And the LA was the county that I was taking all those drugs to. So I was like, you've got to be kidding me. How am I going to apologize to him? So I went inside, and I carried his baggage into his room. He had no idea who I was. And I was trying to find an end, trying to find a way to start a conversation. Couldn't get the conversation started. It was late at night. So I went in the main lobby, and I'm talking to these people from Hollywood. They were coming down to do the film shoot. And I said, hey, man, that's really cool. You guys are doing a film shoot tomorrow, in this area by the border. Can I come? And they're like, you want to come help us? I said, yeah, please. And so God opened the door. I had to sign some paperwork, and I got to be on that film crew. Just absolutely amazing. I got to apologize to the mayor of Los Angeles, which was just incredible. And I've got photos with him and everything. The Jesus Cartel ministry was doing freaking amazing. I was convincing people to get out of the cartel. We had churches that were getting ready to start sponsoring women, single mothers that their husbands had been locked up for being a mule. And we were doing big things. I mean, my pastor was getting followed. He had black SUVs following him. Scary stuff. And he told me about it. He's like, should I be scared? And I said, well, I don't know. You tell me to have faith. I'm a new Christian. You tell me to have faith. And, I guess you need to have faith too. And he's like, okay. He was so chill. He was the coolest pastor in the world. His name was Ben. And I love that man more than any man in the world to this day. He was the best mentor for me for those months, the most difficult months of my entire life. And but I'm gonna zip backwards real fast. So the first night I get out of jail, I go straight to the alcohol store, because that's where alcoholics do. That's where we go. And I picked up a 6-pack, and I'm looking at this craft beer. I mean, it's just so fine. It's just so elegant. It's just so I can just taste it in my mouth, even talking about it now. And I was trying to figure out which craft beers I wanted. And I heard in my spirit, God whispered, do you want to go back? And I said, no. I put that beer right back on the shelf. Just immediately put that beer back on the shelf. And I have not touched a beer since that day. My life has been completely in order. I turned out to be one of the biggest lobbyists and one of the biggest litigators in the Federal Bureau of Prison. I got the director of the Bureau of Prisons fired. I now own FloridaPrisonConsulting.com. And I work for movie stars and things that are locked up. Joe Exotic, Tiger King, doing some stuff for other ones I can't even mention. Trying to get in with P. Diddy right now because they need help. I mean, that's serious abuse they're getting in there, and they need help. And I'm the only one that knows how to do it because I fought the whole time. I fought through the courts. I sued and sued and sued and sued and sued the entire time I was in there because I was so disgusted. I thought I was going to a drug rehabilitation, and I was so excited for, and come to find out it was the biggest drug trap house in the world. The federal prisons are so corrupt. I was just shocked. And so I was really angry about that. And I was like, I'm going to be the one to change this. So I was writing 250 letters a week to U.S. Congress. Now they all know me on a first name basis. I can call Marco Rubio or anybody and deal with the situation that's going on in whatever particular prison and help people, etc. But anyways, guys, that is sort of a crazy, wild story about how I obtained the cargo mines and why the cargo mines ended up being sold again, and they're now in the name of a trust, and it is private land. It is no trespassing. Don't go there. You'll get arrested if you go there. These guys do not play around. I just told you what they did to the realtor, and they will do the very same thing to you. But if you get permission to be on the property, it's the coolest place in the world. It's so freaking amazing. It's the most amazing place to camp. And it's surrounded by tens of thousands of acres of Bureau of Land Management land all around it. And it's one piece that's private in the middle. And it's got these two enormous, huge swimming pools up at the top of this cliff that they used to wash the ore in with arsenic. But it's so cool. There's never been a cooler place I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've been all over the world, and that was the coolest place ever. I loved it. I loved camping there in the winter. One other quick story. I was camping one night, and I didn't even smoke pot. I worked in the head shop adult industry. I manufactured, kratom, and I was deep in that industry, and as deep as you can possibly get. I was running stuff there, and I had these huge groups that I connected everybody to. But so I wanted to have the California experience just because I was in California with this old 1960s motorhome. I wanted to have a bong. I wanted to be able to drive around with a bong just like Cheech and Chong on my windshield. So one of my buddies gave me Good Stash glass. Really good friend of mine. He gave me a bong. He's like, "Here, man, put that in your dash." I'm like, "Yeah." So I had this big camping space set up in the mine area, and I had all my stuff laid out. I had 12 packs of beer everywhere. I had the bong laying on the table, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm super hungover, super tired, and a helicopter lands right next to me, and a bunch of military guys come running out of it. And I was like, oh shit, I'm getting raided. And I started, filming them with my phone immediately, what's going on. And they did a bunch of training exercises. And then one of them finally came up and told me, hey, this is a spot we've been using since the 1970s. It's a training spot. It's a cliff we use. It's really important for teaching maneuvers. And I said, dude, this is private land. He's like, what? Are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't want you guys coming out here anymore. It's liability. If anything goes wrong, I can get sued for this. So please don't come out again. And he's like, wow, I'm going to have to go tell the base commanders because we always thought this was BLM land. I said, no, everything else is BLM land, but this is private land. So anyways, guys, just thought it'd be a cool, interesting, boring story about a crazy guy chasing people with machetes and chainsaws and axes through the desert when they thought they were on vacation and they thought they were going to see this really cool cargo mine out in the Muchacho Mountains, right next to Yuma and right next to El Centro. And that's the true story behind it, of how I got it and how I lost it. So keep your eyes open on eBay property, man. You never know what you can find on there at a complete accident that could just be amazing. So anyways, guys, seek God above all else. If you seek him, you'll find him. Just ask God to prove himself to you, and he will. He'll change your life. I'm alcohol-free, drug-free, everything. And all it took was a prayer. It didn't take rehab, didn't take anything. It just took a prayer. And I've got tons and tons and tons of pain issues because I've been all bolted together from a motorcycle wreck. And I take kratom, and I don't have to take any opioids, just kratom. That's why I actually got into kratom, was because it saved my life, got me off opioids, and it's saving millions of people's lives all over the USA. And Big Pharma and the government hate it. They've been trying so hard to ban it. It's unreal. It's a real fight for the survival of kratom. If you don't know about it, find out about it. It's spelled Kratom. And I'll just give a shout out to the people I buy it from now. Is yokratom.com. That's YOKRATOM.com. And they've got really good kratom. I've been buying from them ever since I got out for about 3 years now. And it's very consistent, very good quality, very good prices. And I just, if I find a good source, I stick with that source. And I probably eat 2 kilograms of kratom per month. Most people just take, a capsule, and they're good for hours and hours and hours and hours. But me, I'm in a lot of pain. And, I own a construction company as well. So it's a lot of physical manual labor as well. And I work like a dog. I work harder than 6 Mexicans put together. I'm the hardest worker of all. So I'm in a lot of pain. And kratom is an amazing thing. So anyways, guys, I just thought you wanted to maybe hear about the Cargo Muchacho Mountains and the cargo mines that started the California Gold Rush. And that's just some interesting history from the El Centro area and Yuma, Arizona area, up there in those Cargo Muchacho Mountains where the guy was chasing the mule and he stumbled on a piece of huge rock of gold, and that started the whole California Gold Rush. So I've heard that story a lot of times. I believe that story. I totally believe that story. All right, guys, God bless. Have a wonderful day. And I actually own www.floridaPrisonConsulting.com. And if you have a loved one that is suffering abuse in federal or state prison, and it's international, it doesn't matter what country it's in, I can fix it. I can solve it. I can get him out of the problem he's in. And I'm the only one in the USA that knows how to do this. And I do it through the course of lobbying through U.S. senators and Congress, embassies, etc. I can get people shipped. I can get people moved. I can do anything as far as when it comes to that, because I learned the system. I spent years studying the system, learning it, and building relationships with Congress and Senate. And if you need help with any of that, I'm more than happy to help you. But as far as the cargo mines, can't say you weren't informed. God bless.